everybody. Welcome to this live broadcast on the Pretoria News regarding gender based violence. My name is Lynette Kruger. I'm a wellness coach. I bring a message to the youth of South Africa today around gender based violence and how to empower and enable women not to fall victim to abusive relationships. But firstly, before we start, I would like to convey my most heartfelt sympathies to the families that have been subjected to loss due to gender based violence. The loss of life is a difficult pill to swallow during these turbulent times. Gender based violence should not be so difficult and so prominent as it is. Um, but to that point, our president has declared gender based violence a pandemic in South Africa, bringing it at the same level of urgency and importance as the COVID 19. Um, it is receiving a lot of attention from the presidency, the ministers, the cabinet, dignitaries, various stakeholders. So there's definitely been a shift, and I referenced the spike in the numbers that we've seen during the lockdown period. Lifeline reporting a 500% increase in calls taken. We're looking at numbers released by um, organizations. 87,000 cases were reported during week one. We're seeing various reports on the escalation. So this is certainly a significant spike and a hike, and lives are lost. However, lockdown, I think, is prominent because the victims were trapped with abuses. Um, the socioeconomic pressures on society didn't contribute, and victims simply had nowhere to escape to. Further, the comment that we just need to note is that gender-based violence is ongoing, and if you look at media reports and statistics, you will note the numbers have been increasing over the past few years. Power has very significant statistics available, um, marking the increase in the numbers. And that demonstrates that this is an ongoing battle. And we know this because we've had these conversations, we've had campaigns, we've had the marches, but somehow we keep falling into a state of complacency. Another fact that I've learned that was released by the University of Pretoria is that South Africa has the best and most well-written laws around gender-based violence. So wherein lies the problem? Why are these laws not being implemented or respected? That leads to a different debate altogether. Um, the sad reality is that lives are being lost. And my message to the youth today is to take control of gender based violence. Yes, it is a pandemic. The judicial system plays a role. Our law enforcement agencies play a role, NGOs, NPOs. Um, the Parliament has released communications around this, and this will be made available on this channel later on. And it's called the Gender Based Violence Center, and it has different numbers to contact for child trafficking, abuse, a Skype number, SMS line, please call me line. So those numbers are important. And my message to the youth today is memorize these numbers, save them on your phone, have quick access. Of course, the first number to call would be the South African Police Service on 10 111. And then the command centers, the GBV command centers, POA, um, Calling Black Label has launched a significant campaign, a very powerful campaign. Please browse around on it. It's hashtag no excuse. And that campaign actually speaks to both men and women. And they are reaching out very powerful messages to the men in South Africa, because we're not We're not denying that there's socio-economic pressures. It's not easy um, to sustain in South Africa. But if you feel it's spiraling out of control, you need someone to talk to, you don't know who to turn to, there is information available for both men and women. Um, you don't need to stay in these situations. There's help. Um, but for the youth, my message is this so far: save the important numbers. Confide in someone if you feel that you are in danger. Speak to a family member. Speak to a friend. If you're working in an environment and there's wellness facilities, most of the corporates these days offer wellness facilities. Contact the counselors. Speak to someone. We don't have all the answers, and sometimes we need a different perspective on what you are dealing with at home. Women are also often labeled as being mellow or over dramatic or irrational or emotional. No, there's no excuse for abuse. So you can be emotional, you can lash out, you can reach out, and you can source information for your well being, and if you're a mother, for the safety of your children. It is your right to explore all the avenues available to you to seek help, and if need be, to terminate the relationship or get away. Another very important topic or avenue that has been brought to my attention are the equality courts in South Africa. Now, this is another bit of information that I'm hoping to see um, coming through in the pandemic communication coming out of government and all the organizations and stakeholders that are playing a role, is the role of equality courts in South Africa and what they address, their function, their jurisdiction, where they sit, and how often they sit. And it basically speaks to human rights, hate speech, a violation of human rights. So I'm looking forward to see more information on that coming forward. I'm looking forward to see the strategy from government. And the beautiful thing about a strategy is, and while we now know that South Africa's got the best written laws on gender-based violence, and there is a strategy, but we just need to bring the strategy to life. And of course, the presidency will reinforce that now, and I'm sure there will be changes made to that strategy. But the beauty about that strategy is that it means nothing if we're not implementing it successfully. And that means that every South African has a responsibility towards the execution of that strategy. It is not just the law enforcers, it is not just the judicial system, it is not just women, it is men, it is the youth, it is women, it is children, it is business, corporate. Every citizen in South Africa has a responsibility to give that strategy the respect and the life that it deserves, so that we can change the game in terms of gender-based violence in South Africa. I would like to see the strategy addressing corporate leadership. So in the workplace, if you see or are aware of gender-based violence taking place, what are you as a leader, as an executive in corporate, what are you doing? Is it not your role? Are there other people that will deal with this? No, it is your role. It is your accountability. It is it's your duty to refer the victim or the perpetrator. Um, People on the street, the youth, women, children speak in schools. Blow the whistle when you hear about it. Don't turn a blind eye. It is everybody's responsibility. So I'm looking forward to the strategy. Another element that I'm hoping to see significant contribution in the strategy is punishment. As the president said, the criminals are walking between us. They are walking free, while the victims are being crippled, drained, brutalized, murdered. And I'm sorry, the reports we've seen over the past few weeks are unacceptable. The brutality is shocking. If that was your daughter, I can't even imagine what those parents are going through. My deepest sympathies once again. Punishment. I've seen posts on social media where men are boastful. Um, they gloat. It's power. It's a power play. It appears to be um, such an accepted norm, and that needs to change. So I'm hoping the punishment and the rules and the regulations that will come through the GBV strategy will address this. And can we just instill some form of respect? It is not okay to abuse a woman. There is no excuse, let alone children. And um, be it as it may, that if you are abusing your wife, the mother of your children, by default, your children are also being abused. They are witnessing this. There's trauma. It's a vicious circle and it needs to stop. Um, so um, I'm really looking forward to see the structure that will come about with the strategy and the communication on the various platforms, and that we can make a significant change and move forward. But as I said earlier, my message today is with the youth of South Africa and young women. So, empowerment and education walk hand in hand, and we cannot make the right decisions if we don't have the right information and if we're not empowered to make decisions. So I'm hoping to enable women and empower you with what I'm going to share with you today. And I want you to listen carefully to what I'm telling you, because it may not mean anything in your life today, but you may hear of someone that talks about this. You may experience this in the future, and then you will identify with what we've discussed today. So, um, abuse starts. Let me take you back to your childhood. When you were a little girl, you had a dream, you had an idea of this wonderful life that you want to live, be it as a career woman, a teacher, a home executive, a mum. What will your husband look like? Never in your wildest dreams did you imagine that you would end up with a person that does not respect you, or would disrespect your children, or would sexually violate you, or would humiliate you, or even take your life. No, nobody wants that. We all dream of love and respect, safety, security, honor. We want to be made woman. We want to be treated as woman because we are precious. So remember that picture and remember that vision that you had for yourself as a child. So I'm going to walk you through a journey, and I want you to keep that picture intact. So as you go along, you get into your teenage years and you start dating even. What kind of men are you looking for? Now remember this picture. Remember what you want. Be sure to marry the two images, the child idea with the guy that you're going to start dating. What qualities must he have? What must he look like? How must he speak to you? So remember, don't not to separate the two. Keep those very closely aligned, because that is very important. Because you will find most of the women that are trapped in abusive relationships have completely lost that vision of who they wanted to be with in later in their lives. Another scary fact is that most of the victims that have fallen prey to abusers, the signs were there, the warning signs were there. There was emotional abuse. There was abuse. But they made excuses, or they turned their back. They ignored the little voice. They ignored family and friend warnings. What made them stay? But we'll talk about that a bit later. So, just before we start, I just want to touch briefly on the various forms of abuse, to be clear, it's not only physical, emotional or verbal, psychological, sexual, financial, and cultural. Cultural meaning that if you are from a certain culture and your partner or your life partner or anyone um, humiliates your culture to inflict pain, that's abuse. Sexual abuse, just very interestingly, just briefly, is not only rape or forcing you to do things that you don't want to do. It's also withholding intimacy in the relationship or using it as a weapon against you. That is all emotional abuse and sexual abuse. They go very closely together. Emotional and verbal, speaking derogatively. You fat, you ugly, you dumb, you will never be anything, you amount to nothing. Breaking you down as a human being, making you wonder, making you question your worthiness. Abuse. So I'm pointing this out so that you can identify the signs. Remember your vision as a girl. Now this guy is paying attention to you and you flattered, and I will get to the flattery a bit later as well. So where does it all start? In a relationship, you meet this guy, he's so nice, he's everything. Oh, you've got butterflies, it's wonderful. The romance, we all for it. We're all in it. We all look at it with a different lens. We don't see the warning signs immediately. So he love bombs you. He can't get enough of you. It's gifts. You are wonderful. He speaks to you every day on the hour. Everything's wonderful. This is like the storybook. This is what you imagine for yourself as a child. And then it starts turning. Slowly but surely, the bullying starts. Okay. So bullying is the introduction, the grooming. So bullying is just a subtle way of abuse. Abuse is violent and aggressive and cruel. Bullying is sarcasm, derogative remarks, um, not building you up, tearing you down, sabotage. So, um, pushing the boundaries to see how much will you tolerate, how will you react to this behavior. So be aware of the grooming phase, the bullying. So out of the love bomb comes the bullying, and then they normally make you confuse you because then you start questioning the behavior and they tell you you're seeing things that don't exist. So just note the trend. You'll see it's a terrible roller coaster ride. One day it's a high, the next day it's a low. It's confusing. It drains you. You start doubting yourself. You start doubting your self-worth. Are you seeing things that aren't there? Are you really a drama queen? Are you emotional? um, all the excuses. You shouldn't drink wine because you can't control yourself. Actually, no, you just pointed out something very obvious. So be very aware. Um, then remember the picture that you had in your mind. So now you're in your relationship. Can you see how they are drifting apart from each other? How you are sliding away further and further from what you wanted for yourself? He's pulling you away now, and he's justifying this behavior. So, the other very important thing is masks. I just want to touch on masks and red flags, the warning signs. So these guys are very cunning and they're very clever. So, of course, it's a marketing tool. They put their best foot forward to con you, so that you believe everything they tell you because they need to win you over. It's power play, it's control, it's manipulation, blatant lying. Okay, so my warning to every young girl going into a romantic relationship or any woman going into a new relationship: take your time. You do not have to get married tomorrow. You don't have to be sexually intimate tomorrow. You do not have to get have a baby tomorrow. You don't have to do anything. You only act when you are comfortable, when you know this person. There's a lot of things to look at, but remember, we want to see the mask, the person behind the mask. The only way we can see that person behind the mask is through constant behavior. Difficult if you're only dating because you only see each other weekends or on a date. When you live together is when you see the real McCoy. So just watch out for the warning signs. Now, the big warning signs for me: anger, tantrums. How does he control his temper? What does he do? Does he get outraged? Does he break things? Does he hurt animals? How does he deal with conflict? Are you able to have a heart-to-heart conversation with him, an adult-to-adult conversation? Control, controlling you from making your own decisions, isolating you, keeping you away from the people and the friends, family. Family, very big. They isolate you because they don't want you to be influenced. Manipulation, lies, inconsistency. What he says today does no longer apply this evening. Those are the tell signs, and you only get to see that in as you go along. Okay, so but big, very big for me: jealousy, isolation, control, and temper. How does he speak to his friends? How does he speak to his mother? Look at his circle of friends. Look at the quality of people that he associates with. Um, you must only attract quality people into your life because that little girl, you don't want to disappoint her. You want to introduce her to the proper people that will give her that life that you envisaged she will have. So quality over quantity always. Okay. Also, substance abuse. How much does he drink? What other substances does he use? Is that what you want in your life? Should you fall pregnant, is that what you want for your children with him? It's really, it takes time to see these things. So a lot of young girls say, but I didn't know this. No, you wouldn't know it because they're very clever in hiding that. It's a Jekyll and Hyde. The only way you see this is with time and going through experiences and emotions. How does he speak to you? Very important for me before I close off. How do you feel in this relationship? Are you comfortable? Are you at ease? Are you walking on eggshells? Are you concerned about his moods more than your own? Everything revolves around his happiness, keeping him calm. No, sacrifices come from you all the time. I can't go with my friends because he's not going to like it. I can't have male friends because he's not going to like it. I can't speak to my mom every day. He doesn't like it. How does it make you feel? Do you feel safe? Do you feel loved? Do you feel respected? If you can't say yes to those questions, you are in the wrong situation. My other message is that you are not trapped. You can decide to make an end no matter how long you are in a relationship. If it's a new relationship, long relationship. But if you are feeling drained and depressed and you feel trapped with no way out, that's not the truth. There are organizations, there are counselors, friends, family. All you need to do is reach out and say, I need help. I'm overwhelmed and I need to make a change. That's all it takes. And I urge you today to take this message forward. Carry it with you. Save the important numbers, if I may recap. Confide in someone close to you. And if you're not sure, because we do make mistakes sometimes, give it time and monitor it as long as you're not in danger. But the minute you feel threatened or at risk or violence, physical attack on you as a person, no excuse. You can't even justify that in any way. You need to leave immediately because it will only get worse. The other trick is when there is abuse, the comeback is always stronger. They work harder to lure you back. Be aware of that. Be careful of that. First, keep your independence, stay in your own place, get your job, finish your education, because that is how we will empower the youth, and that is how we can start spreading the message. You are not trapped. There is a way out, and don't rush into anything. Make the right decisions so that you can make informed decisions going forward. I thank you for listening to me today, and I'm honored that Pretoria News is hosting this broadcast, and we will post more information with the relevant contact numbers on these sites shortly. Thank you and goodbye.